We all love to dream, don't we? It's one of the most sacred gifts we were given as human beings. To find a quiet moment, close our eyes, and just imagine. To see the person you could become, the life you could build, the impact you could make. That is a profound power. An eagle doesn't dream of launching a startup. A lion doesn't dream of writing a novel. But you can see a future that doesn't exist yet. You can architect a reality inside your own mind. What an incredible, marvelous gift. But here is the razor's edge. Here is the part that no one likes to talk about. If that dream only ever lives inside your head, it will turn on you. It will become a source of the deepest frustration a person can ever know. I have met so many people with breathtaking visions, dreams that could change the world, but they are frozen, paralyzed. They stand there staring at the horizon, wondering why it never gets any closer, wondering why the dream feels more like a ghost that haunts them. So I want to tell you something tonight. Something so simple it's almost offensive. Dream as big as the heavens. But you must start with a step so small it feels insignificant. Picture a ladder leaning against the greatest wall you've ever seen. The top of that ladder is your vision, your masterpiece life. But you can't just teleport to the top. The journey doesn't begin with a heroic leap. It begins with the very first rung. And have you ever noticed? That first rung is always just a few inches from where you're already standing. That's not an accident. That's grace. Life never demands a giant leap from a standing start. It just whispers, start here, with what you have. Take one small step. When I was a young man, my dreams were huge. I saw the cars. I saw the influence. I saw the freedom that others had. And I wanted it. I wanted it bad. The problem was, I was stuck. I had no map, no compass, no idea how to even begin. And then a man named Earl Shawaf, who I would come to call Mr. Shawaf, looked me in the eyes. One of the very first things he told me was, Jim, the future isn't something you stumble into, it's something you design. But then he added the part that changed everything. You design it now. You design it with the small things. That one piece of advice, it cracked my world open. At the time I was drowning in debt. I was falling behind on every promise I'd ever made. I had more bills than I had days in the month. But Mr. Shawaf, he told me, don't you dare curse your small beginnings. Don't you dare look down on the little steps. That's where the magic is born. And my God, he was right. Let me ask you this. How do you conquer a mountain? Not in one jump. You do it one foothold at a time. And how do you cross an ocean? One stroke at a time. It's the exact same principle with your dreams. You don't manifest a fortune overnight. You don't become a genius by sunrise. You don't sculpt your body in a weekend. But you can save a single dollar. You can read a single page. You can do a single push-up. These small steps, this is where the battle is won or lost. The difference maker is consistency. See, anyone can do something small once. That's easy. But true success comes from the quiet discipline of doing it again, and again, and then again when nobody is watching. Mr. Shawaf used to say to me, what's easy to do is also easy asterisk, not asterisk to do. And that right there is the dividing line in life. It's easy to skip that one small step. It's so easy to bargain with yourself and say, I'll do it tomorrow. But tomorrow becomes a week, and a week becomes a year. And before you know it, the dream is just a faded photograph of a life you could have lived. So if you are holding a big dream in your heart tonight, and I pray that you are, your only challenge is to find the first, smallest possible step, and take it. Now, if you want financial freedom, maybe that step is putting $1 into a jar instead of a vending machine. If you want vibrant health, maybe it's just walking to the end of your street and back. If you want to heal a relationship, maybe it's sending a single text message that says, I was thinking about you. These are the tiny rudders that begin to turn the giant ship of your life. The big dream is what lights the fire in your soul. But it's the small steps that change who you are. They build the muscle of discipline. They create the quiet hum of momentum. They forge an unshakable belief. You start to see, with your own two eyes, that you can asterisk change. And once you get a taste of that progress, once you start stacking up those little wins, suddenly the dream doesn't feel like it's a million miles away. It feels like it's right around the corner. So tonight, you protect that dream. You guard it with your life. Don't let anyone tell you it's impossible. But understand the secret. The secret to reaching it is to start small. Stay disciplined. And let time work its compounding magic. Because time is the great multiplier of your daily choices. The days stack into weeks. The weeks stack into years. And one day you'll look over your shoulder from a place you never thought you'd reach and whisper to yourself, I can't believe how far I've come. Now, once we accept that giant dreams are built on tiny actions, we have to ask a critical question. Why do so many people never even start? Isn't that fascinating? They have the dream. They talk a great game about the dream. They might even have it written on a vision board. But when it's time to take that first simple step, they freeze. I've found it usually boils down to two great illusions. First, they dramatically underestimate the power of a small action. They think, what good is $1 going to do? What difference will 10 pages of a book really make? And because the action feels too small to matter, they dismiss it. But they forget, the small thing is not the destination. It's the beginning. It's the seed, not the tree. And if you despise the seed, you will never taste the fruit. Second, they dramatically overestimate the size of the journey. They stand at the bottom of the mountain, look all the way to the peak and say, I could never ever climb that. They see the massive chasm between where they are and where they want to be, and the sheer scale of it suffocates them. But here's the truth no one tells you. You don't climb a mountain in a single leap. You climb it one step, one rest, one day at a time. And if you can narrow your focus to just the very next step in front of you, the mountain begins to shrink in your mind. Let me give you a story from my own life. When I first got into business, I was terrified by the titans of industry, the men and women who had built empires. I would look at them and think, how could I ever get to where they are? But then I remembered Mr. Shoaff's voice in my head. Don't let the size of the prize intimidate you, he'd said. Let the size of the step encourage you. So instead of obsessing over how to build a fortune, I focused on one thing. How do I make my first $100? And once I figured that out, I thought, okay, now let's try for 200. And it just grew from there. That is the profound beauty of starting small. Small steps give you proof. They are tangible evidence that progress is not just a fantasy. It's real. And once you see that progress, you start to gain confidence. That confidence fuels more action. More action creates bigger results. And a powerful positive cycle is born. Here is what Mr. Shoaff taught me. Words that I have carried with me my entire life. He said, Jim, success is not some cataclysmic overnight event. Success is nothing more than a few simple disciplines, practiced every single day. Think about that. You don't just wake up one morning and poof, you're a success. No, you have been making small deposits into your account of success for years, day after day, discipline after discipline. And then one day the world looks at you and calls you an overnight sensation. Isn't that ironic? They see the harvest, but they never saw you planting the seeds in the dirt, day after day. The same is true for failure. Failure is not one single catastrophic event. Nobody destroys their life in 24 hours. Failure is just a few small disciplines, neglected, repeated every day. A few little excuses, a few minor delays, a few tiny compromises, and then one day the bill comes due. Success and failure are not destinations. They are processes. They both start impossibly small. So the whole game is to get yourself on the right side of that process. Start with one new discipline. Just one. Don't try to reinvent your entire life by tomorrow morning. If you want to transform your body, don't vow to run a marathon next week. Just commit to walking around the block today. If you want to fix your finances, don't try to save half your income if you've been saving zero. Start with $1. If you want to gain wisdom, don't promise to read a book every day. Start with 10 pages. Because here's the magic that happens next. Once you prove to yourself you can do 1, you realize you can do 2. And once you do 2, you can do 3. And then, momentum takes over. Motion creates emotion. Progress ignites passion. And before you know it, the thing that once felt impossibly hard now feels easy. And the thing that once felt laughably small has grown into something monumental. I'll never forget a man who approached me after a seminar years ago. He looked defeated. He said, Jim, I've wanted to be rich for 20 years. And I'm no closer today than when I started. I looked him in the eye and asked a simple question. Well, how much money have you saved in those 20 years? He looked down at the floor and said, nothing. I replied, then it's no mystery, my friend. Wealth begins the moment you decide to save the first dollar. He laughed for a second, but then his eyes widened. He finally understood. He'd been dreaming big but was completely unwilling to start small. So please, do not wait for the perfect opportunity. Don't wait for the stars to align. Don't wait until you have all the answers. Begin. Begin with what you have, right where you are, and put your trust in the process. Because the small steps, when taken with faith and consistency, will carry you to destinations you can't even fathom right now. You see, sometimes we think small steps are only about physical action, about asterisks doing asterisk things, and that's part of it, of course. But it's not the whole story. The most powerful small steps often happen silently, inside your own mind. Tiny shifts in your thinking, small adjustments in your attitude. Those are the steps that can unlock everything else. See, if you change your actions but you don't change your underlying philosophy, any change you make will be temporary. But if you change your philosophy, even just by 1 degree, your actions will eventually and inevitably follow. That is why a single new idea can revolutionize a person's life. Just one. You don't need 1,000 new ideas. You need one powerful idea that you actually live out. When I met Mr. Shoaf, it wasn't that he buried me in 1,000 lessons in a single evening. No. He gave me a handful of concepts that hit me so hard they echoed in my mind for weeks. One of them was this: success is not something you pursue. Success is something you attract by the person you become. That idea completely rearranged my universe. Up until that point, I thought success was something you had to chase down and wrestle to the ground. But now I understood. It was about becoming. And once I truly let that idea sink into my soul, it began to change my daily actions almost automatically. That's why I always encourage people to read just 10 pages a day. Not a whole book, 10 pages. It sounds like nothing. But over the course of a year, that's more than 3,600 pages. That's 10, 12, 15 good books. And I promise you, 15 good books can fundamentally reshape your entire philosophy on life. They can give you the very ideas you need to bring your dream to life. It's the same thing with what you listen to. You don't need to have motivational talks blasting in your ears 24/7. Just a few minutes, every day, consistently. Over time, the voice of wisdom and encouragement begins to get louder than the voice of fear and doubt. That is a small step in your thinking that produces massive changes in your living. Now let's talk about habits. What are habits really? They are nothing more than small steps that have been put on repeat. That's all they are. You don't forge a habit by doing something a single time. You forge it by doing it over and over and over again, until the action becomes more automatic than conscious thought. And once it's automatic, it starts to shape your destiny with almost zero effort. I'll give you an example from my own life. Early in my career, I started the simple habit of keeping a journal. Nothing fancy, just a place to jot down notes, interesting quotes, observations, and lessons I was learning. At first it seemed like such a small, pointless thing, a few sentences a day. But over the years, that journal became a treasure chest. It became a living record of my own evolution, a library of insights I could always return to. And eventually it gave me the very material I needed to teach and help others. A tiny daily step that compounded into a resource for a lifetime. Now let me show you the other side of that coin. I once knew a man who developed the habit of stopping for just one drink on his way home from work. It seemed so small, so harmless, but that one drink soon became 2, and 2 became 3, and before he knew it, he had built a lifestyle that stole his health, his money, and eventually his family. Small steps, but headed in the wrong direction. That is the dark side of this principle. Small steps are impartial. They work both ways. They will either lead you up the mountain, or they will lead you off the cliff. Success or failure, growth or decay. The direction you face is your choice. But the principle of the small step never ever changes. And here's something else you have to burn into your mind. People are always looking for the big secret. They think there must be some hidden mystical key that unlocks the door to a great life. But the truth is, there is no secret. The secret is the boring, unsexy little things you do every single day. That's it. What's easy to do is also easy not to do. That is the great dividing line. So what's the small step in thinking? It's deciding, right now, that your small actions matter, that the little things count, that today is not a throwaway day. If you believe today doesn't matter, you will waste it. But if you see today as a single brick in the cathedral of your future, you will treat it with reverence, and the future is built one today at a time. Let me ask you, how do you measure a life? Not in the big headline-grabbing events, not in the breakthroughs. A life is measured in days, little ordinary days, stacked one on top of the other. Stack enough good days together, and you get a good year. Stack enough good years together, and you build a good life. But it always comes back to the single day, the single choice, the single tiny step. So the invitation tonight is profoundly simple. Don't wait for the lightning strike of inspiration. Don't wait for the perfect detailed plan. Start with one new idea. Start with one new habit. Start with one small shift in your attitude, and then repeat it. Over time, that repetition is what transforms the insignificant into the magnificent. Now let's talk about the engine that drives it all. Discipline. Because dreaming big, that gives you the destination. Starting small, that gives you the ignition. But only discipline will get you through the journey. Discipline is the bridge that connects your grandest thoughts to your greatest accomplishments. It is the glue that holds all the small steps together until they accumulate into something extraordinary. I used to think discipline was a punishment, something heavy and restrictive that robbed you of your freedom. But then I discovered the profound truth. Discipline asterisk is asterisk freedom. Without discipline, you are a slave to your moods, your appetites, your whims. With discipline, you take the wheel. You become the master of your life, not its servant. And that is what gives you the power to build the future you truly desire. Now don't mistake discipline for self-punishment. Discipline simply means choosing to do the little things that matter, when they need to be done, whether you feel like it or not. Nothing heroic, nothing dramatic. Just quiet, consistent action. When I first began setting goals for myself, I was on fire with excitement. I wrote them all down, but I quickly learned a hard lesson. Your goals are only as powerful as the disciplines that support them. A goal without discipline is nothing but a wish. You can wish for a healthy body, but unless you practice the disciplines of moving and eating well, nothing will change. You can wish for wealth, but unless you practice the disciplines of creating value, saving and investing, nothing will happen. Discipline is the engine that makes the wish come true. And here's what's so fascinating about discipline. It compounds. Just like money in the bank earns interest, every act of discipline builds on the last. If you skip one workout, it becomes that much easier to skip the next one. But if you do one workout, it becomes that much easier to do the next. That is the universal law of momentum. And once you have momentum on your side, the effort required feels almost non-existent. But momentum never shows up on day one. It only appears after you've pushed through the discomfort of those first few small steps. That's why starting is always the hardest part. Building a new habit feels awkward and unnatural. But if you can just push through that initial friction, soon discipline becomes your greatest ally. It begins to serve you. Let me tell you a story. Early in my speaking career, I had a good friend who desperately wanted to build wealth. He had a huge dream. He'd say, "Jim, I'm going to be a millionaire." And you could tell he meant it. The passion was there. But every single time I saw him, I'd ask, "So how much did you manage to save this month?" And his answer was always the same: "Nothing. But I will, as soon as I start making more money." That was his fatal error. He thought discipline was something you practice after you have abundance. But it is the exact opposite. Abundance follows discipline. If you can't be trusted to manage $1 out of $100, you will never be able to manage $1,000 out of $10,000. That is the hidden power of starting small. You are proving to yourself and to the universe that you can be trusted with responsibility. If you handle the little things well, life will entrust you with bigger things. That isn't just some quaint philosophy. That's how the world works. A bank won't give you a massive loan if you have a history of defaulting on small ones. Why would life hand you a grand opportunity if you've proven you can't even handle a small one? Now, discipline doesn't just build your bank account. It builds your character. And your character is what will carry you through when the journey gets hard. Because listen to me, the road will get hard. There will be days you want to quit. There will be seasons where your progress feels invisible. And in those moments, it is your discipline that steps in and says, do it anyway. Have you ever noticed how brilliant your mind is at talking you out of doing the things you know you should do? I'll start tomorrow. I'll do it next week. But tomorrow so often becomes never. That's why your discipline must be stronger than your feelings. If you let your feelings drive the bus, you'll rarely take the small steps. But if you let your discipline drive, eventually your feelings will get on board. Here's a little formula I want you to remember. Motivation is what gets you started. Discipline is what keeps you going. You do not need to feel motivated every single day. Nobody does. But you need to be disciplined every single day. Because discipline doesn't care if you feel like it. Discipline just does the work. And here is the best news of all. Discipline, once it's practiced long enough, becomes a habit. And a habit, once it's fully formed, becomes automatic. Can you imagine the freedom of having powerful, positive habits running on autopilot? Habits of health, habits of learning, habits of kindness, habits of productivity. That is when you know discipline has truly set you free. So remember this. The dream gives you the why, the small steps give you the how, and discipline gives you the when, which is now, and every day after. Together they are an unstoppable force. Without discipline, your small steps are just random events that never add up. But with it, even the most microscopic effort, compounded over time, creates a life of masterpiece. Now let's talk about the arena where all of this unfolds. Time. Because if your dreams require small disciplined steps, then time is the environment where that magic happens. Time is the soil. You cannot rush a harvest. You can't plant a seed in the morning and expect to eat the fruit by evening. Life simply does not work that way. I used to be so impatient. I wanted everything yesterday. But Mr. Shoaf taught me, Jim, everything of true value requires time. A seed does not become a mighty oak overnight. A baby does not grow into an adult in a week, and your success will not arrive in a single season. Time is a non-negotiable part of the formula. The great challenge is this: time will pass whether you use it wisely or not. Isn't that a sobering thought? 5 years from today, you will arrive. The only question is, you could be in the exact same spot you are right now, or you could be 5 years closer to your dream. And the difference will be determined by the small steps you choose to take starting today. I once asked a man, where do you see yourself in 10 years? He shrugged and said, probably about the same as now. I told him, then you have just sealed your own fate. That is the grave danger of misusing time. But here is the breathtaking opportunity. If you decide today to start reading, to start growing, to start saving, to start moving, 10 years from now, you will be unrecognizable to the person you are today. Time is the great magnifier of discipline. Let's make this real. Suppose you decide to read just 10 pages of a good book every day. It feels like nothing, but in 1 year, that's 3,650 pages. That is a small library of books. Now multiply that by 5 years. That's 60 powerful books. Can you imagine the ideas, the wisdom, the perspective you would possess? People would look at you and call you brilliant, maybe even lucky. But luck had absolutely nothing to do with it. It was simply time plus discipline. Or let's look at your finances. What if you saved just $5 a day? That's about $150 a month. That's $1,800 a year. It doesn't sound life-changing, but over 10 years with even a modest return, you're looking at tens of thousands of dollars. From what? From skipping a fancy coffee. From one small step, multiplied by the relentless power of time. Now here is the key insight. Most people drastically overestimate what they can accomplish in a week, and they tragically underestimate what they can accomplish in 5 years. They get frustrated when they don't see massive results immediately, and so they give up. But if they had just stayed the course, the results would have begun to compound in ways they couldn't imagine. Think of the farmer. He plants in the spring, he cultivates in the summer, he harvests in the fall, and he rests in the winter. That is the rhythm of life, the rhythm of success. You cannot change the seasons, but you can change yourself. You can choose to plant when it's time to plant. You can choose to tend your crops when it's time to tend. And if you do, the harvest is inevitable. Time is neutral. It will either work for you or it will work against you. The consequences of neglect don't show up right away. If you eat junk food today, nothing dramatic happens. If you skip your workout today, you look the same in the mirror. If you waste the day, the world doesn't end. But give it enough time, and neglect will show up with a vengeance. Just as discipline compounds, so does neglect. So your choice is simple. Will you allow time to be the multiplier of your neglect, or will you command it to be the multiplier of your discipline? Because either way, I promise you, the years are going to pass. I'll never forget a young man who said to me, "Jim, I don't want to spend the next 5 years building this business. That's way too long." I asked him a simple question. How old will you be in 5 years if you don't build it? He paused and said, "Well, the same age." I smiled and said, "Exactly. The time will pass no matter what. Why not arrive 5 years from now with something incredible to show for it?" That idea changed his entire perspective. He realized that the only thing worse than the time it takes to succeed is the regret of looking back and wishing you had started sooner. So here is my challenge to you. Value the seasons of your life. Respect the process. Trust in the compounding effect of time. Do not give up on your dream too early. Because the difference between success and failure is so often not about talent, or brilliance, or luck. It's simply about who was willing to stay with it long enough. Time is not your enemy. Time becomes your greatest ally. The moment you begin to feed it with small, consistent acts of discipline. If you plant the right seeds, if you take the small steps, one day you will wake up to a harvest so abundant it will take your breath away. People will ask, "How did you do it?" And you will smile and say, "Day by day, step by step, season by season." Now let's expand our vision. Because this principle of dreaming big and starting small, it doesn't just apply to your bank account or your career. It applies to every single facet of a well-lived life. Your wealth, your health, your relationships, your leadership, your contribution to the world. Success isn't one isolated department. It is a holistic way of being. Let's start with wealth. I've already talked about saving that first dollar. But true wealth is so much more than numbers on a spreadsheet. It's a philosophy. If your philosophy about money is broken, no amount of cash will ever fix it. That's why you see lottery winners end up bankrupt. They got the money, but they never developed the disciplines. True wealth begins with the discipline of living on less than you make, then expanding what you make through your skills and service, and finally multiplying what you have through wise investments. All of it starts small. First you learn to master a single dollar, then 10, then 100, then 1,000. If you fumble the small amounts, the big amounts will crush you. Now let's pivot to your health. Isn't it fascinating how your health and your wealth operate on the exact same law? If you want to be vibrantly healthy, it's not about one heroic workout or 1 week of perfect eating. It's about the 1,000 small choices. Taking the stairs instead of the elevator. Drinking a glass of water instead of a soda. Going for a short walk instead of sinking into the couch for another hour. These are the small disciplines, practiced consistently, that reward you with energy, longevity, and a high quality of life. I remember during the years I was traveling constantly for seminars. The temptation was always there to eat poorly, to skip the gym, to sacrifice sleep. But I learned a critical lesson. If I didn't protect my health, my wealth and my influence would mean nothing. What good is a beautiful house if you don't have the vitality to live in it? Now let's talk about relationships. The big dreams here are a beautiful marriage, deep and loyal friendships, strong family connections. But those masterpieces are not built with a single grand gesture. They are woven together with thousands of small threads. A kind word, a note of appreciation, a thoughtful phone call, a moment of truly listening. Neglect in this area is devastating. If you fail to water a plant, it withers and dies. If you fail to nurture a relationship, it does the exact same thing. I once knew a brilliant man who worked day and night to build a massive business empire. But he neglected his family. He told himself he would make it up to them later with his money. But later never came, and the relationships were gone forever. Success in one area of your life can never compensate for failure in another. A truly successful life requires balance. and balance is achieved by paying attention to the small daily steps in every category. Leadership is another arena where this principle reigns supreme. People often think leadership is about a title, a position, or a booming voice. But true leadership begins with influence. And influence is built on a foundation of trust. And how do you build trust? By your example. Show up on time.